This show is brought to you by Directory.com, the safest way to hire a contractor.
And we are back. There one type of home improvements that I think everyone agrees that you should not do it yourself, and that's anything to do with electricity, because you're literally gonna die. So Adam Sen has a story for us why you should never even try electrical work yourself. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, there's a reason why these guys are allergic to a broom. It's a pretty high risk job. And so the backstory is that Brenda Ritchie bought a house in Texas from Steve and Amy Pinnell. Steve had bought the place as a flip project, remodeled it himself, and put it back on the market. The seller's disclosure stated that no unpermitted work was done. After closing, Brenda found out that the wiring was not up to code and the water heater was in the wrong location. Her brother, a licensed electrician, pointed out the problems. Then came the bombshell. She was denied a certificate of occupancy, and it turns out that Steve Pinnell did most of the electrical and all of the plumbing himself with no license, no permits, and no inspections. He said he learned by reading how-to guides and copying what he saw in his old house. He claimed that he didn't think he needed permits because he owned the home and could work on anything on my side of the city's box. Steve was later fined by the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for doing unlicensed electrical work. Brenda filed a lawsuit against Steve and Amy Pinnell, and the Pinnells argued she couldn't sue because she hired a home inspector and accepted the property as is. The trial court originally tossed out both of Brenda's claims, but the appeals court brought the statutory real estate fraud claim back to life. It said there's enough evidence to let a jury decide whether she was tricked into buying. However, her breach of contract claim was officially dead, because the sales agreement had a standard as-is clause, which legally covered defects, even serious ones. So some interesting facts in this.
So third story today, denied by original court, and then on the reappeal, they resurrected. Your take?
Well, this is the first one where they hired an inspector.
I know. I was going to say it.
Step in the right direction, right? The issue is a lot of times those inspectors are restricted, right? No intrusive testing. They're not taking the cover plates off outlets and switches, right? They're not taking the cover plate off of the panel. And it's one of those that especially, they should have been able to see some amount of electrical work was done, right? You would notice new receptacles and maybe make a note of it. For me, what was difficult is that it was after closing that her brother, a licensed electrician, noticed the stuff, right? It's one of those, if you have a family member that knows stuff, bring them in before closing, have them do a walkthrough with you. That would have been, but I understand, things get missed. Yeah, it's nice to see a home inspection was done. It just really shot myself in the foot when I kept talking about how you should get a damn inspector, and in this case, didn't really do much.
Yeah, again, I feel like you can't win in this course. So in the previous story, as is was, as is, nothing guarantee. Right here is hey, it has as is clause, so it's not a big deal. It was just one line, and it's well, it says that, so even if it's serious, you bought it as is. So I guess it depends on the state, on lawyers, on the situation, because in the previous story there's so many moving parts, from earthquakes to what's not. Here is hey, you have that clause, and that's also my question this day and time. If you're a realtor, if you're a buyer, seller, whatever, you can go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me the basic. I actually practices this morning. I'm selling the roofing materials, and I say, hey, I want to offer money back guarantee. Give me standard legal disclosure, 30 days, no more than 10% use, blah, blah. And it just spits out all those little clauses. And I don't know, looks to me that sometimes it really stands the ground. Okay, there's as is, boom, you're done. And sometimes even if the clause is there, good lawyer can fight it.
Here it is. So remember from the last story, as is means the buyer accepts the property in its current conditions, but the sellers cannot hide known defects, right, that would incite the homeowner to purchase. So the smoking gun, right, in this claimed ignorance in this case was that the lawyers found another permit application for a fence permit on an entirely different property, and in that permit application they signed a declaration that said he was familiar with all ordinance, rules, and regulations of the city of Winnsboro relating to building and premises. So in another permit application, he signed a declaration saying that he was aware. So saying that he was unaware in the future was now a lie. So the lawyers did their job and did their opposition research, right? And that was what then
What a fine
brought
that is.
Apple.
Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. So if you don't get a permit like the last story, you can get off on just being an idiot and not knowing the code. Like, oh, I didn't look at the code, so I can get away with it. But if you sign a permit, you're saying you know the code. Now you're held to a higher standard.
Well, there's also declaration. It's not just the code.
Yeah.
There's declaration with the permit.
So he made that declaration. So essentially, if you just consistently stay stupid, you either die here or live long enough to become the bad guy. But if you at any point ever go and get a permit, you sign this declaration, well, then now a lawyer is going to be like, has he ever filed a permit before? So then this becomes the thing. This is what cracked the case wide open on the second round. So the first judge is like, looks like you signed it as is, government inspection, pound sand. And then the lawyers appealed saying, no, we did our research. He actually did know. He said he declared it. And so it's very key if you're going to be an unlicensed
kudos to the
contractor.
lawyers. Sometimes it just takes that. I love cold cases. You know, like if you ever watch cold case, for me, like those people are absolutely here, taking something 20 years old, and this to me sounds like a cold case. You take something and throw it away. It's like, no, let us dig a little bit deeper and see if we can prove it. Which is a good job. They proved that this guy knew essentially what he was doing. What do you think about his university where he learned how to do electrical work?
What year was this in? Was this pre-YouTube? Because the lack of mention of YouTube really hurts. You know, he would have probably learned a little better.
That's the real problem here is he didn't go to YouTube.
Yep.
But yeah, that fraudulent inducement. If he is, sorry, I had one train of thought, and then you asked that other question. But to think of like the DIY, like there is a lot of this stuff that, you could, but it's not the idea risk, it's the execution risk. I mean, that's the problem is like, sure, you watch the YouTube video, but it's no different than like putting together like your kid's toy that you buy at Christmas. So you have to keep referencing the instructions. So if he watches it and goes, yeah, I got the gist of it, like, because it doesn't tell you in the YouTube guide or the how-to guide, it doesn't say like, oh, this is the all-encompassing knowledge. It just says like, this is this narrow view of your answer to this one question. Like ChatGPT will do the same thing. It'll answer your question, but it won't necessarily give you like, here's all the gaps that you're going to have with the experience. So yeah, you can't confuse, Google for a medical degree and declare yourself to have cancer. No different than you can just read a book on how to cut a wire and become an electrician. So, I guess, we don't live in a world anymore where people can DIY because there is such a high standard of expectation as to what a property is, because we do need like a certain bare minimum quality. Like, well, this isn't Iraq, where you can just like, pour concrete and make your house. Like, people expect a certain standard. And it's unfortunate because where's the home inspector in this? Usually the home inspector has some kind of like extended liability to trust the validity of their claims.
Well, they almost always have something you sign with them saying they're not liable, right? I've never had a home inspector that didn't have something I signed pretty much says like, you'll do your best, but you can't see everything, right? But my question is like, what is the extent of this one? Because when it talks about they found out the wiring wasn't up to code, what was that? Like one or two boxes weren't grounded properly. Maybe an outlet had reverse polarity or whatever, right? And it was just, it could have been really simple changes. We might only be talking about $1,000 worth of repairs that are actually needed. The water heater being in the wrong location. Well, is that just, it has to be 36 inches from the furnace, or, is it some code like that? And it was just 2 inches too close. We don't really know the extent, because he could have been really, really close to doing all it right. And it's simple changes and could have been fixed. And, that's the other question. But my question for you, Adam, is, so if he had never signed that fence permit previously, where he signed on saying, I understand all the codes, if he had never got a permit his entire life,
they didn't have a case.
He would have got away with it, right?
If he had never signed a declaration. And like the costs here, I found in the court case, the electrician to rewire the faulty work was estimated to be around 500 or 5,000 to 15,000, and the plumber to inspect and replumb the faulty work was around 5,000 to 10,000. And so, but in the earlier case, when he tried to like get the cost of collection from the legal defense fees, they're estimated around 50,000. So, he got a state fine of $5,000 and potentially around $20,000 in remediation costs. Like, it kind of goes against the risk. Like, if you're going to try and get in anything, if you're going to try and get into this business, doesn't matter what business it is, but if you want to get into business, I think that you ought to try and like, again, was he treating it like a business, or was he flipping it like a personal home flip? I don't know. But if you're going to try and get into this, it pays in the end to try and be legitimate. And it's like there's too many people that try and take the shortcut because, yeah, the whole like landlord paint job, right? It's like you just paint over the problem. Like there just need that. If you're going to try and do this as a business, you have a responsibility to be legitimate, or this kind of stuff happens. And this is a good thing that the courts exist and appeals courts exist, because we have a judicial system that can be executed on.
I will say this comes back to kind of what we talked about earlier, where if this was Minnesota, he would have other charges too, because it says he bought it as a flip project. He bought it with the intention to profit, which requires you to have a license, a general contractor license, or at least some extent of license in Minnesota. And so I'm curious. I would bet Texas has the same, but I'd be surprised if they didn't. And if they did, why is he not being pressed on that? Like, hey, you should have been licensed. And what is that? Like I said before, if someone has a license, the risk is they could lose their license. But if you never had one to start, what is that punishment? I don't think it's outlined in the law.
But also, the seller's disclosure stated there was no unpermitted work was done. So that's like deceiving the potential buyer.
It's true.
So,
but have you ever filled out selling disclosures? What happens? The realtor hands it to you, says, all right, just click no on these 15 boxes, right? It could have been easy to look. Not saying that should have been done that way, but in his defense.
Absolutely. Well, we have one last story left. It's actually also about electrical work, and I'm so happy we have YouTube now. I grew up without YouTube, and here's how I learned what electricity was. Here, you guys are lucky. You have 110 volt. In my country, in Siberia, it was 220 volt. I had this giant car with a little tiny motor. I didn't have batteries because we were poor, and I wanted to resurrect that car. So I took the car off. I got 2 wires and I literally came to the outlet and plugged it in. Short, and it blasted, blew up that motor. The breaker went off, and I was sitting 3 hours with no electricity. Someone came to our house. I opened a door and it was like some uncle and stuff. He's like, "Hey, here's what happened. I just heard a blast." He's like, "Let me check the breaker." I'm like, "What is breaker?" So that's how I learned what breaker was. And I was probably like 8-9 years old. Our next story, when we come after the break, is about house flipper who learned electrical work from watching TV. Do not go anywhere.